Have you got an idea for a song that you just want to record and get out there into the world? Well, in this series of videos, we're taking you from idea to release. Hey guys, what's happening? This is JP from John Paul Music UK. If this is your first time here and you want to learn more about looping and music tech, start now by clicking the subscribe button, hit that bell, and you won't miss anything. This series is called From Idea to Release, and the idea behind it is that from week 1, if you've got an idea, by the end of week 5, we can release it as a full song out into the world for all the streaming sites and all the online stores. This is the second video of the 5-video series From Idea to Release, and in this video we're going to show you how we take the idea that we recorded in part 1 and we're going to show you how we embellish that from a recording into a full song. Over the past week, I've been dotting in and out of this room, looking at this song and seeing if we can embellish it. I've now got a couple of verses as well as the chorus pretty much down, and we've got a little lead idea as well, or maybe an intro. Now, the original idea is recorded in Music Memos. There's two things I can do. I can either send that idea from Music Memos to Garagband, or I can build a track from scratch. Now, I would normally say send it to Music Memos, but it's only the chorus that I've got. And the other thing as well is, if you do send a track from Music Memos to Garageband, you can't change the BPM afterwards. So say you played it a little bit too fast from what you actually want, and then further down the line you find actually you want it a couple of BPM slower, you can't change that later on. So on that basis, what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a track from scratch, and we're going to build a structure based on what we've written down for the lyrics. Now, with using GarageBand on my iPad, there's lots of different sounds in there, but I also want to record live sounds. I want to record my guitar, I want to record my voice. So as well as using the onboard sounds in GarageBand, I'll be plugging an audio interface and recording live. If you haven't yet seen part 1, I'll put a card up now so you can go back and watch it. If your song is already ready and you want to get it out there in the world, then you might want to have a look at our sponsor. This series is sponsored by DistroKid. Upload unlimited songs, EPs and albums to all the major online stores and streaming sites like Spotify, iTunes, Apple Music, Pandora, Amazon, Google Play, Tidal, iHeartRadio, YouTube, Deezer, and over 150 more around the world, all for just $19.99 a year. And keep 100% of your royalties. Get 7% off your first year's membership with our special VIP link that's on the screen now, and it's also in the description box below. Okay, so to start building our song, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the drummer in GarageBand. I'm going to use different parts of the drummer and space it out so I know what the verse is, the chorus is, etc, etc. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move across over to drummer. We're going to pick acoustic drummer, and I'm going to have a look and see what we've got. We start off with Kyle. Let's have a listen, see what he sounds like. That's great. So first of all, we need to get the BPM correct. So we're going to move this all the way up to 154, which is what was on Music Memos. Let's have a listen now. That sounds pretty cool. So for now, what we've got is 8 bars. When you launch Drummer, it just gives you the straight 8 bars from the beginning. We need a lot more than that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just use one section, and we're going to ramp this all the way up to about 158, 159, 160. Let's go 160 just for why not. So we're going to have this so it's got lots of bars, and then we can start playing with it. Now, when I tap off this, it's going to loop that 1 8 bar quite a lot of times. We don't want it to loop, so what we're going to do is we're going to drag it back, deselect it, and then when you reselect it again, we can actually change the actual length of this loop. So the first thing I want to do is I want to have like a 4-bar intro, maybe just a hi-hat, and then a bit of a fill. So let's zoom in on this and let's start making that out. So let's go 4 bars. We're going to take out the drum kit. We're going to have a big fill at the end. Let's have a look and see what we've got. Okay, that's too long. I only needed 2 bars. So let's go 2 bars and let's have a listen. All right, cool. So all we need to do now is create another section. What this will do is it'll create multiple 8-bar sections for us, and we can start manipulating them. All we do is tap next to Kyle, and you can see it says select all, create or edit. We're going to hit create. Now if I zoom back out, we've got lots of 8-bar sections there, but what we're going to do is I'm going to basically just get rid of a couple of them and start making this into the song that I want. Now the great thing about Drummer is that it's like a live drummer in that respect. So what we can do is we can have a bit of an intro, and we can have, like, say, verse 1 and then the chorus. The great thing about this as well, they all say Kyle, 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 Kyle. What I'm going to do is if you tap on one of them, say this very beginning bit, if I tap it again, we've got a couple of options here. The other one is rename. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this intro. This is really useful as you start making your pattern, because what this means is you can visually see where you are on GarageBand. So let's just change that there. Cool. We're going to use the next one. I'm going to rename it straight away, and we'll just call it verse 1. I'm going to move this along. Now in the verse, I'm going to start singing. I actually want it to be a little bit quieter, so let's use this loud, soft, simple, complex pad, and we can actually drag this section down a little bit, and we can bring the fills down a little bit, so we don't have a fill in bar 4, we only have it in bar 7 or 8. So let's have a quick listen and see what that sounds like. That's great. In fact, what I'm going to do is on the intro, I'm actually going to bring in a tambourine just a little bit, just to give it a little bit more oomph, and then obviously it's going to die down. Yeah, it's great. Now I've got the structure of the song in my head, but if you're not sure or you've written lyrics down, you need to reference them, you've got your device, what you can do is you can do split screen on an iPad. If you're not sure how to do this, it's really simple. All you do is, we've got GarageBand up right now, and then we just swipe up to activate that bar at the bottom, and then swipe up again. And you can see that I've got notes there, and I can just drag notes up on top. So this is the lyrics, and then what I can also do is I wrote out the chord structure, so I can have a look at this and see where we are, and then I can actually reference this and move along. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to reference the song, I'm going to carry on with this, so then what we'll end up with is a full version of the song with Drummer. So what we've now done is we've got a full version of the song now with Drummer. We've ended up with 2 choruses at the end. I'm not quite sure yet from the recording how we're going to end that, so that might change as we get further down the line, but this just gives us a really great reference, and we can see here how many bars we're going to be for each section. So the next thing we need to do is get the guitar into this song, and what we've done is we've plugged in the audio interface into the Hyperdrive into the iPad, and then I plugged the guitar in on channel 1, and I've got my headphones so I can hear myself. So to set up GarageBand, what we're going to need to do is click the plus button, and then what we're going to use is audio recorder. So we're going to use instruments, and straight away it sets up a guitar. There's loads of different settings here. I just leave it on nice room for now. I can always change it a little bit later. If you plug an audio interface straight in, the great thing is that GarageBand automatically recognizes it. So we can see here it's already figured out there's channel 1 and channel 2 of the audio input source. So we're using input number 1, and what we're going to do is we're just going to make sure it works. We're just going to turn monitoring on so I can hear it. There we go. And then all we need to do is we need a reference to make sure that we're playing the right chords in the right place. This is where the notes come back in, and all we're going to do is we're going to swipe over and we can see the notes here. And the great thing about this, I can see my chords whilst I can also see which part I'm recording because I've named them. So this becomes really, really useful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually, I think we're ready for a take. When I hit record, it's going to give me a 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing I do need to do is I need to make sure the mix is okay. So I need to hear the guitar as well as hear the drums. I've turned the drums down just a little bit just so we can hear the guitar a bit more. And I also need to turn the metronome on. Now, I do prefer recording to a drummer as opposed to the metronome, but there is a gap at the end of verse 3. So I need to make sure that I'm in time for coming in for the last chorus. Okay, so we've recorded our guitar. You heard there at the end I was playing slower than the metronome. It was a bit difficult to do, so you always have to almost ignore the metronome when you're doing that. You could turn the metronome off at that point if you just need the drummer and you're okay with it. And yeah, there we go. We got our guitar recorded down. Okay, so the next section is vocals. You join us here in the booth. This is not really a booth, it's the corner of my room, next door to where we've just been playing the guitar. Now I've got a couple of acoustic tiles here and that's fine, but if you don't have that, what you can do is you can actually sing into a wardrobe. So put the microphone stand and open the wardrobe doors, put the microphone stand in the wardrobe, and all the clothes that are inside, if it's got loads of clothes in, it will deaden the sound. It looks silly, but actually it works really, really well to deaden the audio so you don't pick anything up from the rest of the room. We've just set the iPad up. Right next door is the Focusrite, and we've turned 48 volt power on. That's really important because we are using a condenser microphone. So we plugged the condenser microphone in, and I've got headphones in again, and we're going to set it up this time, but this time we're going to set it up for vocals. So all we need to do is click the plus button on there. We're going to use audio recorder again, but this time click voice. We've got a signal coming in from the microphone, and I can see that on the 2i2 there, and you can see it coming in on the green. Now, this is two things you can do here. One, we need to hear monitoring. So if we turn monitoring on, we can now hear the monitoring of that. We've also got, of course, again, a lot of presets we can play around with. You've got radio ready, extra singer, narrator. I'll just leave it on lead vocals for now. And there's a little bit of hall. I'm going to pull that back just a little bit because I want to hear the vocal as I talk to it. 1 2 1 2. The other thing you can do as well on Garagband is if you have a look here, it says channel 1, and that's fine, it's picked it up on channel 1. If you click the little lead next to in, there's also, it says monitoring, you can also turn on a noise gate. So if I turn noise gate on, what it can do is if I drag it further down, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2, it can hear everything. But right now, as I pull it up, 1 2 1 2 1 2 1 2. So this is a double-edged sword with noise gate. You can turn the noise gate on, but it's going to affect the actual recording. You'll notice also at the top you've got inter-app audio, and this is where you can actually put effects in. So if you've got effects from other devices, you've got, like, for example, Rough Rider there is an EQ, so I could EQ it straight away. And of course, this is affecting the recording. What I want to do is I want to record as dry as I can, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to affect it later. So we're ready to record. I'm going to bring up the notes page once again. I'm going to have it on this side again, because that way, as you can hear, as I move from one across to the other, you can hear the difference so I can reference it. This time, I'm not going to need the metronome because I'm not going to be playing. So I'm going to turn the metronome off. And then also what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make sure that the volume is how I want it.
I can't settle down without you. I can't fall asleep at all. Looking at the stars above us. Did you ever fear you'd fall? Take my hand and hold on tight. Let's dance tonight. Take my hand and hold me tight. Let's dance tonight. Take my hand and hold on tight. Let's dance tonight.
Okay, so we've done a first take. What we're going to do is I'm going to play that back. There's also going to be some harmonies in this, and there's also going to be a higher version. So I'm singing quite low right now, but there's also going to be an octave higher. So I'm going to add that and the harmonies in as well. So we've recorded our vocals. We've got the main vocal, which is quite low. So in the chorus, we've got an octave higher, and we've pulled that into what we call sweet chorus underneath. So we've got lead vocal, sweet chorus. The other two sweet choruses are harmonies, and they are only in the chorus section anyway. So I have recorded them and then copied and pasted them over. So I just wanted to give you an insight as to where those lyrics fit in the song, and we're going to move on to the instruments. So we've got our drums in there, we've recorded our guitar, and we've recorded the vocals and also some backing tracks that we might use later. And the next part I want to do is use the instruments inside Garageband. The next bit I need is a bass, and I'm going to use one of their instruments, which is called a smart bass. So you've got smart bass there. In order to change the chords, all I need to do is go to the gear icon on the top right hand corner, and then you'll see while it's in this mode you'll have edit chords. If I tap edit chords, I can tap on each one individually, and then what it's going to do is it'll ask me what chord you want it to be. So I'm going to actually just change these around so they're the chords that I need for playing this song. So I've decided to go with the Smart Instruments upright bass. It's got a nice tune to it when I use the chord system. We're going to use the automatic chord system. We've now got the chords the way we want them, and I'm going to hit record. And what this does is it records it in MIDI. So the great thing about that is if I make a mistake, I can actually go in and edit it later. Okay, so we can see now that that's been recorded into MIDI, and what I can do with that MIDI is I can chop that up into sections and copy and paste that across the song. Okay, so we've copied and pasted the bass, and we've got all the bits that we need, including the double ending on the chorus. And the next thing I want is a bit of organ. Now there's two things I could do here. One, I could play on the screen, or I could incorporate my own keyboard onto this, which I'm going to do. Okay, so this is my Roland Juno DI, but what we've done is we've just used the USB to USB-C cable, plugged it into the Hyperdrive, given it some power. And this is the great thing about iOS. When you plug in a musical keyboard, it just works. So this is great. I can now play the organ bits with the real keyboard and play that directly into GarageBand.
Take my hand and hold on tight. Let's dance tonight. Watch the fireflies buzz around.
Okay, cool. So I've got the parts that I need in. Yet again, just like the bass, I'm going to copy and paste. I'm going to also record a higher part for the final chorus.
So kiss me quick, don't let me stare. You and me, still sitting in this tree, looking kinda high from here. What do you see? You and me, let's dance tonight.
Okay. So the other keyboard sound I want to use is the piano. If I was recording on the screen, there is a sustain switch, but if you're using both hands, it's difficult to play. So I'm going to show you how to put the sustain in later.
Take my hand and hold tight. Let's dance tonight.
Whew, so we've got the piano down, a couple of more bits to go, and I think we're nearly there. Right then, one other thing I want to do is I'd like to double up the guitar. I could play it again, but actually I'm going to use the same recording and just have a different effect. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to hit the plus button and we're going to use the amp. Now I'm going to use a clean amp and just do a little bit of tweaking on it, but there's nothing there at the moment. So what we're going to have to do is just go back to the song. We're going to have to grab the audio file of the guitar recorded, click copy, go right back to the beginning, and on this track we click paste. Now it is actually the same guitar, and I'm going to move it up so they're next door to each other so we can see them together. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to hit play, and then I'm going to start tweaking this second guitar around. quite like that sound actually. So what we need to do now is we need to have a look at the band, as it were, in its entirety. I'm going to just move things around just so they're in place. So I always like to have the bass right next door to the drums, and then we have the guitars, and then we've got the keyboards, and then the piano there, the organ and the piano, and then the vocals at the bottom. That way I know which order everything's in. I just like to do that. It's just one of my little things that I do just to tweak things around so I can see stuff. I always have the vocals at the bottom at the last part. That second guitar, I'll probably take a little bit of that out in the verse so it only comes back into the chorus just to give it a bit more level and oomph. So let's have a recap here. We've got our intro, our verse, our choruses, we've got our ending as well, which slows down at the end. We've got our upright bass, we've got the guitar we played in, we've doubled that over with a secondary guitar, we've got the organ playing low and high, we've got the grand piano, and we've got the vocals. Now obviously I've been tweaking around with the volumes just for my own hearing, but we've not been mixing it yet. That is in part 3. And also we're going to have a look at doing some tweaks to the vocals, make them sound a bit nicer, and also have a look at spatial awareness. At the moment everything is right in the middle, and if you were to look at a band on stage they wouldn't all stand like that. They'd be spaced out, and we need to make sure we have a stereo sound out for the whole band, as it were. So there we go guys, we've kind of got a song together. Now we've got to do a little bit of mixing and automation, and that's in part 3. In part 4 we're going to go through mastering, and part 5 is releasing that song out into the world. If you found this content useful, please give it a thumbs up. That really helps me and helps the channel grow. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Hit that bell and then you won't miss when the next one comes out. A quick thank you to DistroKid for sponsoring this series of videos, and a big thank you to you guys. If you've subscribed to the channel already, that's amazing. The next video is all about mixing and automation, and we'll see you on the next video.